Hi guys, it's David Piron. I wanted to share a little bit of my study and to explain a little bit more. So I make a study. It has been in academia, I think, and he explained that I believe that the flood, Noah's flood, happens around 3300 BC because of Dendrochronology, and so I've got many discussion about that, many people. So I want to make a video to explain a little bit more. I think it has been everything has been said. The main thing has been said in in the article, but I didn't 15 pages of article. But I'm going to explain a bit more and explain what is dendrochronology, what is my journey also, and yeah. So I try to do something in life. Sorry for my English. It's not always good, but I try my best. So yeah. Um, so first, I want to explain that I wanted to. You look at the Bible, there is many people who are date the flood at different ages, at different time. Uh, I find somebody who from the Bible he was able to say, okay, it happened 3500 BC, and I found some people say, okay, no, it's 350 BC. Some people say 3300, some others say 3000 BC. So you see there's different interpretation from the Bible, and for me it was like a bit okay, I don't know, and there's some stuff sounds nice to me, so but I wanted to check it out. I wanted to find another way to date the flood, and I met 10 years ago. I met a guy who he was a dendrochronologist. He was Christian, and he was from Austria, and he was able to date violence or something and different things with dendrochronology. And when I heard about his story and about his science, I was like, oh, it could be very interesting to be able to date the flood with that. And he was very skeptical, but I kept this in my mind. And 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I started to study that. But and then yeah, I discovered many other things, and yeah. So I want to explain a little bit what is dendrochronology. Many people, so that you can find on YouTube, you find, if you say dendrochronology and creationist and evolution, you find a guy who actually say that because of dendrochronology we are creation is not possible, and this is a proof of it, and he's very confident in that, and I could make a video and by saying the opposite, and I can say, okay, with dendrochronology we can actually prove the Bible, but yeah, but it's funny. But so because of that, and because the Christian didn't like it too much, some conclusion of dendrochronology, they skip this. They didn't like it, and they say it's not reliable. So what is dendrochronology? And there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I talk to many people, and the response that I receive is like they doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay, and so I want to explain. So first, it's very easy from the beginning. You have, by example, living tree today, and if you cut them, you can know the age. You understand that when you are kids, because it shows the season, and it shows the tree rings, and every rings means that it is 1 year. And if you have many samples from the living tree, you can see that, by example, in the year 1828, it was very no good year for the tree, because all the trees in the same area, in the same species, they make very narrow rings, and in every trees. And the year before it was bigger, the year after was bigger, but in this specific year, the tree didn't grow well. And then 10 years later, also the same. And then 5 years later, you can see that, yeah, it was very good year, and the trees grew very well. And then blah blah. You can see from different trees the same things, the same pattern that you know, and you can see that this year was bigger than the other one, stuff, blah blah. So you can correlate the trees, the living trees, so easily with this. If you use like an oak, a very old tree, it's easy to do to correlate them together. And then if you use if you know that you have a building around you and the same area that has been made by oak with oak, and then it has been made 100 years ago, and if you sample them, if you take some sample from that, you can and if it's 200 years, they use timbers who are 200 years, you can also correlate the living tree from today with the tree that you found that you see on these houses. And then you can have so 100 years where you just have living tree, and then together you will have 100 years together with the living tree and the house, and then you have a record of the 100 years just with the houses. But if you have many houses that has been built at different period of time, you can actually date some houses which are 1500. So, and it's crazy, but actually it's from the record that this house has been built in 1528. Yeah, of course it is the case, because we know from the record. So it's working from today to this for these last 500 years. So why is working? So people say, yeah, but sometimes he's making double rings, or there's missing rings, but no with certain kind of wood. So I explain, and I think it's very important to explain, because then you can open your eyes. So by example, oak is making a very big cell during the springtime, because he need a lot of sap to grow up for the leaves. So every spring they make specific cell, and then the tree is growing during the spring and during the summer. In the springtime it's making big cell. Okay, so it's not possible with oak to have double rings or to have missing rings, because you will never see trees who are making twice leaves a year, and you will never see a tree who are healthy and good not making any leaves also. So because the marker on the tree rings is the spring, and it's because of the sap and because of the leaves, it's reliable. And it's reliable up to date, something like 1500 years ago. Like 500 years ago. So if it's reliable for this last 500 years, and then we can check it out, why it's not reliable for this last 5,000 years ago? So yes, so really wanted to explain, and the pine, so the conifer, it's a bit different, and sometimes it's possible to have double rings, but it's not because you can find double rings sometimes, and you can explain and study it, that it means that dendrochronology is not reliable. Okay, so this is the conclusion that many people do, because they don't know what they speak about. So many people think that also because of the living tree. So the oldest tree is around 5,000 years old, and you don't find any, but it's because they see that as Americans' perspective, because in America they find trees who are very old, the Bristol scones. These trees could live for 1,000 and more than 4,000 years old. Okay, more than 4,000 years. But in France, dendrochronology in Europe doesn't work like that. So with the living tree, and the tree has been found in houses, you can go in time. But if you really want to have very old trees, very old, they just live 200 years, but they lived 1,000 years ago. Okay, so if you want to make a chronology, you will find these trees they were preserved in water. So first in gravel pit. So when the people take the gravel, they sometimes find trees, and if you collect them, you can cross them together, and yeah. And also in peat. So peat is it's kind of grass with a lot of water inside, and it's grow. So when the tree is raising there, then he died at some point, and then because the peat is still growing, so then the peat is conserved on the pit. So this is the way it has been. So then after the farmer find the oldest trees when they are um, taking away the water, and then we can date the trees, and we can make dendrochronology with that. And I have to say that some laboratory, they were able to make very long dendrochronology, and they were able to do that 12,000 years of dendrochronology, 12,000 years. So for some people who believe the Bible, it's big shocking, wow, it's not possible, but actually, yeah, I kind of, it's life. I mean, it's reality. It's what we observe. But there is another thing that we observe. Oldest trees that has been cut by man. It was been dated by dendrochronology. It's 5,200 something BC. No, yeah, 5,250 BC. The oldest thing, and it has been found in Europe, in Czech Republic, in a gravel, and it's I think it's a wheel. I think I use a good word for that in English, and it's something that, when you want to have water on the ground, you make a big hole, and then there's the man make a structure to support this, and they make it by wood, and this has been found in a gravel. So you can check it in internet, but it's oldest. You don't find any houses who has been built 10,000 years ago by man, who has been dated by dendrochronology. You don't see that. You see dendrochronology who are go 12,000 years old, but you don't see man did houses 10,000 years ago. Okay, so I want to be clear. So for me, when I look at that, I kind of, for me, God creates the world in 1 week. There's no problem for that, because everything is interdependent. The animals need vegetables and plants, and trees need animals also to pollinize. So it has to be created in the same times. So I have no problem that it has been made in 1 week, but I just believe right now, by studying the Bible and by studying dendrochronology, that the time between the creation and the fall of Adam was different. So, and maybe Adam lived for many years, like 5 or 6 or 7,000 years before he fell to sin. It's my conclusion. It's what I look. Okay, so I make a pause in my video because I worked this morning, and this is midday, so I've got a few minutes to finish my video and to explain a little bit of my study. So as I said, it was a long journey, but I was thinking, okay, where do you find the flood? And then I went through an article from a man called Henry something, and he said that, yeah, for him the flood was in 2300 BC. So I tried to find evidence for that, and then I study a place in England, kind of by chance, I would say by the Holy Spirit. But the first time I didn't know exactly what I would find there, and in the beginning I didn't realize too much, and it's by studying this place for 1 year that after I understood what it was all about and what it was important information. But you have sedimentary layers. On the top of that you have peat. Sometimes it's 3 meters. Yeah, and it was maybe even more, But then the farmers started to drain this field and to make culture. And they found trees, and so it has been studied already in the 19th century. And one study, and there's some people who are stratigraphically study the peat, and they find that they have some small trees. The roots of these trees was very horizontal, and it was on the peat. So because there's so much water, the tree doesn't need to go deep. The root doesn't need to go deep. So and but then if you look at the bottom of this pit, they found very big tree, much bigger and even taller, and and yeah, and this one was rooted on the sedimentary layers, on the Oxford clay and Cambridge clay. So and then this study, these trees has been dated by Dendrochronology, by a laboratory from Cambridge and from Belfast, and I also went there, and I have some trees and stuff, and the oldest tree that I could find, I could date, was around 3,241. And I know that another tree has been dated by the Cambridge University, that it was 3,245. So, and then later, just 3 months ago, University of Cambridge, they found trees that has been dated at, so the oldest rings was around 3,241 or 40, no, 75 BC. So okay. So for me, it means that the flood responsible for the sedimentary layers is not, it's not possible that so the flood came before these trees. So it's not possible that the flood came after 3,275. It was not possible. So the way I was in contact with university and with people who are working in dendrochronology in France, and one guy, he's really follow me, and he was very old one, very experienced. He's archaeologist, dendrochronologist, and he's not believing in God at all. But then I didn't explain that. I didn't tell him that I was what I was looking for, and I just say to him in one point, I say, you know what, I think there is something happened around 3,300 BC, but it hasn't been studied, or it hasn't been really studied, and we don't know exactly what it was. What it was. I knew what I was looking for, but I tell him that there is something happened at that time, and yeah. And then he told me, oh, I like your study because of what happened in Switzerland. I say, what? And he told me, and I didn't say anything else. So then I study archaeology in Switzerland. And in Switzerland, there is pile dwellings. They find pile on the lake, and actually they realize that it was from different cultures. People make houses there, and they find pottery, etc. And at that point of the history, there is a transition. There is a before and a after. There is a before, there's some culture, and after there is a new culture came in. But actually, there is a link between the two culture, and so it's very interesting. And from study these villages and the pile dwellings, I was able to kind of make the supposition that actually the ark was built in Switzerland, and it was started at 100 years before. So then I was able to date the flood because of the beginning of the start of the village, who I suppose that it was a place where Noah's Ark was built his ark. Noah built his ark. Sorry, and then so I thought that okay, it's 3,293 BC for different reasons. And then so for that I believe that for already 1 year, and I don't have any stuff who can actually go against this idea. I study around yeah. But then later, very later, I realized that there's another transitions who are well explained and well documented by archaeologists in Switzerland, by dendrochronologists. It's a coming of the European languages, of the Indo-European people, and this the coming. So there's a before and after, and it's around 2760. So this has been studied also. So there is two main transition, if you want, and they make diagrams and stuff. And but what is funny is that if you look, so I suppose that the Tower of Babel happened at that time. So nobody was living for 4 years in Switzerland. It doesn't seem there is any construction at that time, around 2760. So 2760 BC. So I suppose that it was the time of Babel. And if I look at what was the time between the flood and the Tower of Babel, I found that it's 533 years. So, and if I look at the Bible, what said the Septuagint, I just like, oh, this is 533 years. So I explain this in my study. You can find, and I try to make clear. So what is funny is that there is a lot of people who are say, yeah, but no, it's not possible, blah blah. And so there's different reason for that. And so let me please react on that. I think I don't at first. Actually, I didn't put my faith on this. So it's why I was free to don't think that is the truth. So maybe it was also the way. Maybe it was good for me to do that. And now I'm looking like that, and I'm like, what? So the first thing is that people think that everything was destroyed in with the flood. Everything. So all the trees, everything is covered by sedimentary layers and stuff. And so often I have the and often these people are like, yeah, we believe in the Bible. The Bible is the only truth, But I'm going to provoke you. But where did you see in the Bible that everything was destroyed? Where do you see that? Is any verse who show and who explain that everything was destroyed? No, it wasn't. It's not from the Bible. And actually, in my understanding, of course, nothing. There's some stuff who are not destroyed. Why? Because you need trees, you need vegetables, you need grass to feed everything, to feed the animals. They were hungry when they get out of the boat. They were like fasting for 1 day or for 1 year, and it was like I guess they were like in different condition, and the first thing that they wanted to do is to eat some stuff. So, and they have to eat grass and trees and everything, So I think it's not possible, even if you think about it, that no, there is some stuff who are remain. And to think that everything was destroyed, this is not in Bible, and you can easily imagine that nothing. So first thing. So second things, different things, different subjects. Sorry, I have to think about it. But the question of the time. I'm saying that I believe it seems like the Septuagint chronology is better, and it could explain, and I'm fit with this date. And I say, no, it's not possible with the Hebrew, because of Hebrew. And I'm like, what? And I'm very surprised because I'm not from this culture, It's easy to see when you're not in your culture, in your background. But and I think they go in Hebrew, and there's a verse and stuff. And for me, this is really strange, because I don't know, because actually historically it's only these last 500 years, I think, that we are connected now with the Masoretic text. But before, all the Christians, they kind of focus on the Septuagint. If it wasn't the case at that time, if it, by example, the first disciple and even in the 300 years, they knew the Hebrew, and they also knew the Greek transcription, so they can compare to each other. If they thought that it's not reliable, or that it's wrong, they will stop that and they will come back to Hebrew. But it's very later that we came back to the Hebrew language. So for me, this is nonsense, and it's really modern that we think that Hebrew is better than Septuagint, because it was not the case before, So whatever, at first I'm very open, and I just encourage you to be open to these questions and not go with dogmatic things, because dogmatic is not good. I mean, there is some good things in dogmatic, of course. Jesus Christ died on the cross, but you can't put your faith on one verse to say that is the Hebrew is better. Okay, this is just a thought. There's many subjects on that. There is another thing that people say, that it's not possible to find remains and even villages in the Alps, because the Alps were not there at that time. And for me, it's like, where do you see this in the Bible? You know, I'm like, come on, this is not. You are saying that when you doesn't go with your sense of you reading the Bible, you say, yeah, the Bible is really the truth. But when it's not writing, you can have a lot of interpretation and be open to that. And for me, of course, there is mountains before the flood. Of course, because it was written like that. In the book of, they say that they see that the boat was, and the water went up until a certain a certain level, and they said that it covered all the earth, and it was, I don't know how many feet or how many meters above or the highest mountains. So before the flood, it's biblical to think that there is mountains, because he was saying like that. If you look at that, so to believe that there is no mountains is not possible. And actually, I would say that Dendrochronology proved the opposite. Why I didn't say that before? Because in Austria, by example, you have a long chronology of trees who has been raised in Austria, and it goes up to, I think, maybe 7,000 BC or something like that. So above and you know. And what is interesting, when you look at globally, when you study the trees in the world, you see that there is some trees who are like with the weather, you know, very difficult weather. So they're in the mountains, or they are in. So you have specific tree in Europe. You have different trees in the United States and in South America, and this during the time it was always like this. So the Sakaya is always there, and you don't find that in Europe, or just now, because people put it now in these last centuries. But globally, so in my understanding, the climate was a bit similar anywhere. I know that when I was young, people told me that, oh, the climate should be very different. You know, it was different. But now I don't see that in terms of dendrochronology. I think the climate was a bit similar. It's what I observed, because you find yeah. So I don't say that there's not. I say that there is sedimentary layers all over the world, and this is everybody saying that, even you know, and even in the highest mountains, I believe that. But I think. And I think there is the mountains, and on the top of the mountains you have sedimentaries. But the mountain before, it was like this before. It was already a mountain. So the shape of the mountain changed a lot. But it doesn't mean that there is no mountain before. Yeah. So there is another, let's think, mountains. Yeah, another things, very strange. In the mainstream, in the mainstream creationist world, they believe in a ice age. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's possible, but where do you see this in the Bible? Yeah, they are claiming, yeah, we believe in the Bible is all true. Never talk about ice age. So maybe you don't know if you look at this video, but the mainstream creationists believe that after the flood there is an ice age. But you don't observe it. It's not possible. Why? Okay, because the biggest dendrochronology has been made is North Germany, South of Germany, and in Scandinavia globally. Okay, Denmark, Holland. No, maybe not in Denmark, but Sweden, North Ireland, and this is very big dendrochronology, and you don't see ice age there. So for me, the way creationists believe that is ice age, I don't see this. If I observe the world and I observe that, I don't see that. So it's very difficult for them to realize, no, maybe they're wrong. And actually, in the debate, if you look at the debates between Christianists and evolutionists say, we don't believe in your model because there is no ice age. You say that, but there is not. But actually, the Bible doesn't mention that. So why do we want to keep this, And for me, also, I was thinking, the problem is that the model that we show to the people, and we say the Bible is saying that, and even if I said to my kids, okay, the Bible, the flood happened in 2350 BC, and I said to my kids, and then I hope that they're going to study. I want to send them a university, but then if the model that I give to them, if they when they go to university realize that it's not right, they will like, oh, maybe if it's not right there, maybe so there will be a very big crisis in faith, So for me, it's really I've got this responsibility for my kids to give them a good model, something that is possible, because then because they will doubt of faith, But I think it's not the center of the faith. Okay, the center of the faith, of course, is Jesus and his sacrifice in the cross, of course. But I think we need to give a good model to the world. And there, yeah. What else? So there is different people who are and there's another thing. Okay, I talk to many people and like it and I actually have the feedback of yes, but what about the millennium? Because in churches they talk about this doctrine of the millennium, that actually the world was built and create 6,000 years ago, and that we are starting to go in the last day actually, and for the next 1,000 years, and Jesus coming back soon. So when I say, okay, I believe that the I believe that the fall of Adam was around 7,500 years ago, I just change everything and I just say, oh, this is wrong theology, And I just want to say I don't do this in purpose. It's not my to break theology is not my point. I just share what I found. But it's funny. And I've got a reaction. It's like, yeah, but my pastor told me that we will be in the end of days, and we'll go in, because of the millennium theology. And for me, I think this is because I try to understand why they say that, and actually they just put their faith on two verses. They say, okay, one day it's like for God it's just 1,000 years, and so this kind of stuff. So it's why they think that we live 6 days, and then there's okay. And for me, I didn't know actually. I didn't expect that, and I didn't expect the response and the problem that the issue that I give. And for me, this, of course, is not clear in the Bible. Again, where do you see? Yes, it is an interpretation. Sometimes when we look at the theology of the Jehovah's Witnesses, they put two verses together, one from the Old Testament, one from the New, and they say, yeah, Jesus is the light, so it's an angel, and for two verses, so you can't build a theology with two verses, because of course you're going to be wrong, and we see many examples of that. So to put a theology really in dogmatic things, you have to be with a lot of verses, and the idea that God created 6,000 years ago and we're going to go in the millennium is not clear in the Bible. It's not written in the Bible. It's an interpretation, I would say. Okay, it could be, but it's not something reliable. I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure other things. Okay. And I'm sure of Jesus, of course. But yeah. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video, and try my best to explain a little bit. But I wish you a good day. Bye bye.